See, we're good. There we go. It's coming through. Let's see what's going on. All right, there we go. Excuse me. All right, I'm here. I'm here, family. Gotta excuse the lateness tonight. It was a long day. A long day. Let me turn this off. Still have my speakers on. Just checking a thing or two. Let me do this. Let me share this. Hold on, fam. I'm just sharing it real quick on Facebook. All right, that should be good. All right, there we go. Welcome to another Friday night. Friday night live stream here on YouTube. The last one was janky, family, so I took it down, but luckily at the time I was recording it elsewhere, so I was able to upload it. All right, all right, so excuse me. So as you see, the topic of discussion tonight is how does growing up fatherless affect your current, past relationships? Forgive me if I'm a little tired tonight. Like I said, it was a long day, but nonetheless, I'm here. Consistency is key, right? So we started the topic over on Facebook Tuesday evening, and the importance of we had the discussion of the importance of a father being actively present in a child's life. Now, tonight we want to dive into the other side of that. We want to discuss the adverse effects of fatherlessness, how it affects, and different characteristics that we may have developed over the course of not having our father active with us, because we understand that not even unfortunately, we understand that a woman can't teach a boy how to be a man. That is something that only a man can do. As far as teaching daughters and young girls how to correspond and how to be when in the presence of men, and vice versa, how men should act and how men should treat them as well. That is a father's role in a child's life. And I think what happens too often is that we give so much praise to the mother for what she does that we forget, because it's, we tell men, well, this is what you're supposed to do. And that is 100% correct. That is 100% correct. That is what we as men are supposed to do when fathering a child. Excuse me. We understand that circumstances happen, but we're not here to talk about the logistics of, or the dynamic of the two parents who, made the decision or the choice to end the relationship, or whether the father passed. What we are here to discuss is a man making the decision to not father and raise that child. And having children of my own and not truly understanding until diving in and doing real research on how even just being present in a child's life, but being unavailable or inaccessible is still just doing just as much damage to a child as an absentee father. And so we want to discuss some of the side effects that women go through, that women deal with, some of the mental health issues that women and adult boys and men go through with while growing up without a father. And as I discussed on Tuesday night, there was a part of my life that I didn't have my father in my life. And what that did is because, of course, I was with my mother for the duration of that time. And because he wasn't there, there were certain boundaries that I wasn't taught. There were certain things that I wasn't taught as far as coming into young manhood. And there was a lot of things said that came from my mother's mouth. The resentment and hatred that I end up having for my father, for him not being there, and I internalized that. And so what ended up happening was that the very thing that I hated and despised, I end up becoming, and not understanding what my father was dealing with at the time, what my father hadn't grown into at the time. I was looking at him through the eyes of a child. And oftentimes, so often, we look at our parents as children. And whatever hurt and pain that we've experienced through or with our fathers or without our fathers, as children, we internalize that. And then what oftentimes ends up happening is that is our perspective and outlook towards men. Boys grow up with They don't have a sense of respect for male authority figures. And when the father is not present in the home or um, actively raising his children, what tends to happen is that not only do we have a lack of respect for male authority, a lot of boys in fatherless homes grow up and they don't get a sense of actually male authority until maybe high school, maybe college if they continue on outside of a workplace. And oftentimes the type of authority figures that come in our lives, that is not academic mentors, are often sports mentors. And I don't, big ups to the men that mentor through sports. I used to be a football coach, I experienced, how hard it was for those young men to come in and get correction and instruction, and the lack of respect that they had for adult men role models. And I see even today, a father teaches his daughter how to interact with men. The first interaction with the man that she experiences is through her father. So if her father is not there, her experience is going to be through the experience of her mother's eyes and her mother's experiences, her mother's perspectives and ideologies. And we know that, based on our perspective of the experiences that we go through, we know that each individual might have a tainted perspective of the opposite sex. And this is why I'm extremely big on asking questions, discussing difficult topics with individuals. A lot of the game that I got about women were from women. And women who may or may not have grown up with a father active in their lives. You can tell by they some of them take a charge of accountability as a direct attack on their character, on who they are. And see, a father teaches you that. See, what a father does in giving guidelines and showing you healthy boundaries, a father teaches his son and his daughter on how to accept correction and chastisement. It doesn't come off as a sense of attack. It doesn't come off as, the individual that is in your life trying to change you. Especially if you know that their intent is pure and just. We know that. But what I have noticed, what I have witnessed, what I have experienced, what I have seen in other relationships is not just a lack of respect between two individuals, but they don't know how to communicate one to another. Men communicate a specific type of way. Women communicate a specific type of way. And if you didn't experience a healthy form of communication between both parents, oftentimes our form of communication is toxicity normalized. Is toxicity normalized? And then what we often do is we charge the other individual with, this is who I am. You're going to take it or leave it. But I mean, in some cases, I understand where you're coming from. I do. But my question to you is there room for you to grow? Is there something that was not taught to you by your father that the men that come in your life is there to teach you about you? I tell men all the time, the women that come in your life, those are the women that you attracted. You can't attract who and what you are not. And so my thing is, fathers build up self-esteem, self-realization. Like I said before, healthy boundaries, a sense of self. And oftentimes you see in little boys and little girls who grow up to be men and women, they don't know how to set healthy boundaries. Oftentimes, you see women who, a father teaches a girl. See, let me backtrack. It is a father's job to show his daughter how to be a little girl. Fathers show their daughters how to be a little girl. And so what ends up happening is, when a woman doesn't know how to be a little girl with her man, when a woman doesn't know how to be feminine with her man, what ends up happening oftentimes is that because her father wasn't there, her father wasn't involved in her life, she takes on what she thinks is or believe to be feminine, but it comes off as masculine to a man. You're aggressive. You're combative. You're so independent that you don't know how to be codependent. Interdependent. You don't know how to be interdependent. That means that both of you, in every relationship, there's roles. There's roles. However y'all define those roles, that is between you. And when my father came back into my life, like I expressed on Tuesday evening with the family, when my father came back in my life, one thing that he showed me is that if you believe in scripture and the man is the head of the house, he led his family. We may not have liked it, may not have agreed, but my father led his family. He was the head of his household. Him and my mom discussed whatever they needed to discuss. He made the final decision. His final decision was law. And I see so many relationships, it's like almost a fight for power. But fathers show their daughters feminine is power. A father shows his daughter the importance of feminine in a relationship. A father gives his daughter game as far as the wants, needs, and desires of men. The father expresses what his needs are, with, of course, with, keeping it in context to, that is his daughter and he is a parent and, she's a child. A father shows his son how to be assertive. The masculine, when we go to work, when we take care of business, that is a sense of war within the masculine. So without a father teaching his son and his daughter to be self-confident, self-aware, and self-realized, what often tends to happen is that you have a higher percentage of children who drop out of school. You have a higher percent of children who run away from home. You have a higher percent of children who don't know who they are, and they oftentimes try and find it in the opposite sex. You oftentimes have children try and it's a higher percentage of suicide when the father is not active in a child's life. You have a higher percentage of children taking the next 30, 40 years before they come back to self-realization. And what oftentimes we call a spiritual awakeness. We teach our daughters the downfall of some fathers. You give your daughter so much game that she ends up becoming, as I said earlier, a feminized form of masculinity. Your son, without you being involved in his life, giving him structure, giving him boundaries, allowing him to bump his head and break a bone and letting him know that that's okay. You have to find your limit, and these are the boundaries I set in place. But if you believe that you can fly, go and try to fly. Without that father there to guide him and to lead him and give him instruction and wisdom, boys end up becoming so careless that some of them may not even have any boundaries. They take advantage of everyone that they come in contact with. They're trying to get over. It's all about, it's an ego thing. It's so egoic that all they care about is themselves. But when there's a healthy father in the home, when there's healthy relationship with the mother, children grow up seeing two different perspectives, seeing two types of form of compromise, two different forms of self-realization and sacrifice. And so what ends up happening is they learn how to interact with the opposite sex. So let me see if I can find this. Some of the effects that we grow into adulthood with for being fatherless or having a father present, but was emotionally unavailable, psychologically unavailable, emotionally unavailable. What happens a lot of times is that children have more difficulties with social adjustments. You know, you feel real awkward around people. You know, and one or two things usually happen when adults feel awkward in a room of their peers. They either shrink themselves or they want to be seen. They're loud and boisterous. Their energy is a form of chaos. Their energy is a form of chaos. Versus having a father to teach you, you know, to be proud of who you are, to be accountable for the decisions that you make, good, bad, right or wrong, or indifferent. Because the way a father lays down the law and structure and guidelines, that within itself creates a form of accountability within children. And what you're seeing today in today's society, because we have a higher percentage of fatherlessness in this generation, you have grown men who refuse to take accountability for what they give another individual, and then it's returned in kind. You have women who feel that they can say whatever they want to a man, and if he expresses it as, or deems it, or perceives it as disrespectful, now she wants to get combative. That's a direct result of not having a father in the home. Or if your father was in the home, your mother ran the house, and your father didn't want no static. So instead of being a man and calming things down, you know, or pulling mama to the side and saying, look, we're not going to do this in front of the kids, blah, 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 whatever the case may be, without being abusive, you know, but once he asserted his authority, not in a diminishing fashion or form, but he let it be known, okay, look, this is not about to happen like this. See, without that masculine energy, you have lawlessness with boys who feel that they can do whatever they want to do. Say whatever they want to say without any accountability. You have boys today, I call them adult boys because they're not men, they're adult boys who grow up and feel they don't know how to corral and harness their emotions. They're overly emotional. Because what they saw in the home, they didn't saw a father who was controlled of himself. So what he saw was mama getting her way whenever she popped off at the mouth or went off the side of the rails. So he felt that he could do that. And then that's when you see a lot of these boys who didn't have their fathers in their lives, they go into the streets and thinking that they can do that in the streets. And a lot of them, unfortunately, wind up dead. And see, as a father of a son and a daughter, the same thing I teach my son, keep your hands to yourself. I teach my daughter, keep your hands to yourself. If everybody keeps their hands to themselves, then you ain't got to worry about nothing. I tell my daughter, you respect your brother the same way that I tell him to respect you. My daughter, I allow her to be that little girl. Refresh your page, refresh your page, refresh your page. Let me see. What's going on? All right. We still, nope, that's not what I want. So, when a father is in the home, I had to drink my tea, working in these elements. When a father is in the home, like I said, a father gives structure. A father gives love and affection. Not just to his daughter. He gives love and affection to his son. You know, and sometimes we can be so hard on our sons that we force them not to feel. We force them not to be who they are. And that's unfair. That's unfair to a little boy. You know, and continuing on with some of the effects of fatherlessness in the home, or a present father who is unavailable or unaccessible. The children are more likely to report problems within their friendships. They manifest behavioral problems. They have an intimidating persona in an attempt to disguise their underlying fears. Resentment is created, anxieties is created, and depression is created. Because when a father is not available, when a child doesn't have a healthy relationship with their father, children feel abandoned. The first sign of abandonment is with the father. I express to different individuals that it takes both parents. If mama is not feminine, soft-spoken, but authority in the feminine power, just her presence can change the whole mood of the house. Loving, endearing, shows admiration to not only the children, but to the father. Then little girls won't know how to do that. If a father, someone said to me a long time ago, when it comes to children, whether the relationship is ended, the problem that creates hostile environments with children, toxic environments with children after mom and dad has separated or went their separate ways, is that parents don't love their children through one another. They love the children around one another. So what ends up happening is that Children reflect energy. You ain't got to say a lot of things with children, and children are very in tune and they pick a lot of things up. We want to believe that children are dumber than some of them look. And I trust me, I get it. I'm around kids all the time. But children are actually smarter than we want to give them credit for. They're a lot smarter than we want to give them credit for. And when children can sense the tension between mom and dad, oftentimes children, they start playing sides because there's no cohesion in the parenting. 90% of children who don't live under the same roof with mom and dad, 90% of those children live with the mother. So whatever mom says about dad, whatever mom's energy is when dad comes around, the children pick that up and the children feed off of that. The children feed off of that. You know, and children are very intuitive, conniving, sneaky. And as children, they want what they want. So what ends up happening oftentimes is that if they know dad is going to say no, because when dad says no, he means no, I'm going to go to mom. Because I know that mom is going to say yeah, or if mom says no, mom is going to do whatever she can to make it happen. So I know that I can get over on mom. Yeah, and you know, I tell the family, I never speak in absolutes. You know, there's always, you know, exceptions to every rule. You know, and whatever conversation mom is having about dad, children take on that ideology. Now, for any man out there that is not doing what he's supposed to do or need to do to make sure that his kids is taken care of, like I said Tuesday, you ain't shit. In my book, in my opinion, regardless of the circumstances, like I said, we're not talking about the nuances of you and your children's relationship because we'll be here all night. I ain't got time for that. We're just speaking in generalities, having a general discussion. You know, so take all of those toxic characteristics that a child grows up with: an intimidating persona, behavioral problems, isn't able to properly socially adjust, anxieties, fears, resentment, depression. So you take all of that as a child and you grow up and you start having relationships. So I talk about it all the time, you know, Tuesday evening shows when we're having dialogue. You manifest who and what you are. And most of our relationships is we're looking for someone that's going to protect our ego, our fears, our insecurities, because we don't want nobody to show us who we are. God forbid that happens. God forbid someone comes into our life and they unearth issues that we need to deal with. So what we do oftentimes is we fight back. We become combative. No, that's not me. this, that, and the other, instead of just saying, damn, do I do that? Do I come off this way? I have become a better man today because of the relationships that I have with individuals, that I've had with individuals. Before 6 years ago, that's when I started my journey of self-awareness. But previous to 6 years ago, people would tell me something about myself and I would get immediately defensive. I would get defensive immediately. I don't know who you talking to. You know, that ain't me. Well, if you wouldn't have did this, I wouldn't have responded this way. Man, but now one of my dudes, you know, we was having a conversation a few days ago and he pointed something out to me that I do. And I had no clue that I did it. But it brought awareness to it. And I said, man, I need to work on that. That's because that's not only the image that I'm not trying to portray, but that's not who I want to be. That's not who I want to be. So becoming a better individual and see, those who know me personally, I surround myself with men. I repeat that again, with men, not adult boys, not adult males, with men we hold each other accountable. We hold each other accountable. And see, if my father wouldn't have been in my life and he wouldn't have been and he didn't show me what man is, what a man looks like, how a man carries himself, how a man takes care of his children, how his man sacrifice, of how a father sacrifices for his children. How my father, when he came back into my life, he knew that he had to provide for a house full of people. There were 6 of us in literally a 2-bedroom house. And I watched my father grind, suffer. My father would work so hard that at times, like, you would be in conversation with this man and this man would fall asleep. He'd sit down and he would just start dozing off in mid-conversation. We'd be like, Dad, you listening? He'd be like, yeah, I hear you. My father did right by us with what he had to give, with the tools that he had in his tool belt at those moments of my life. He did right by us. We didn't like it because we had certain expectations on what a father was supposed to be. You know, like I said earlier in the broadcast, we oftentimes as children have these fairy tale expectations of our parents. We don't know what our parents are dealing with in those moments that they're raising us. But instead of giving them credit and showing honor and respect to our fathers for being there and showing us what a man looks like, too many times we point out the things that he didn't do. But we never ask ourselves, did he know how? Did he have the information at the time? See, because growing up, I grew up in a faith-based household. The information that is readily available today wasn't readily available then. And then speaking with him speaking with family members, and him expressing some of the things that he went through as a child, and seeing the man that he has become today, that man gets nothing but my respect. Would I have hoped, or wished, of course, of course. Of course I do. But nonetheless, my father gave me what I needed. He gave me the foundation. And now it's my job as a father to build on the foundation that he gave me to give to my children. Each generation, we should be getting better. Fathers should be getting better. Fathers should be more in tune with their children, to their children, and for their children. And if you're not, there's too many books out here, family. There's too many books out here to help guide you, help give you a starting point of fatherhood. There's too much. So to all my fathers who do father their children, big ups to you. I praise you. You're doing a hell of a job. To the fathers that are allowing their daughters to be little girls, to be their princesses, big ups to you. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. Because as men, we're not women, so it takes work and it takes effort to be attached in multiple ways with our daughters. Effort is applauded, but it takes work. It's easy to communicate with our sons. It's easy because we're boys, we're men. We've been that age before. We know them. But our daughters, that's the challenge. And one of the things that I notice is that oftentimes men who were womanizers or who were players, a lot of us have daughters. The universe placed a daughter in our life to show us the error of our ways. And so my thing is, like I said, to those who didn't have a father, and for whatever reason, for those fathers who've passed and you didn't get to experience them in your young adult life or your adult life, my heart goes out to you. Because what we have now is a lot of women in today's society who don't know how to interact with men. And their beliefs of how they interact with men is, I hear in speaking with women, they get frustrated because they expect men to talk to them as if they're women and understand the paragraph to one question of an answer that we're looking for as men. And I know that that can be difficult, that can be challenging. But any man, when he asks a direct question, he's looking for a direct answer. He's not looking for the answer any specific type of way. He's looking for a direct answer. He's not looking for a full conversation like you and your girlfriends would have. And see, and that's the importance of a father. A father teaches his daughter how to interact with men. And then to the fathers who were present in the home, but didn't teach his sons how to be men, didn't teach his daughters how to interact with men, didn't teach his sons how to interact with other men. Because one thing men understand, that when approaching one another, when dealing with one another, there is a small underlining sense of possible violence. We understand that when dealing with other men. So the way we approach each other is respectful, is with the understanding that if I approach this man incorrectly, something is possible to pop off. Something is possible to pop off. And see, fathers have to teach their daughters the same thing. Sweetie, you don't approach a man any type of way you want. Even if you're in your feelings, you don't approach that man in a challenging manner as if you can beat him. Because if he puts his hands on you, then now I gotta pull out that goddamn it. That's a father's job. That's a father's role. It's hard for those who father was toxic. That's your first impression of a man. And a lot of women, I know one of my sisters who went through some painful things with her father. And to be able to be in a relationship with a man, that takes work. Because whether your father was there, whether your father wasn't there, whether your father was inaccessible emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and then if your father, because you have a lot of women whose fathers touched them, whose fathers abused them. So the pain that you grow up with of that father, then you have to seek professional help. Don't be afraid to seek help. Now, with saying that, I will say this: don't make that professional help your relationship. Because a lot of times what I'm noticing is people go seek professional counseling and that becomes their relationship. Excuse me. Relationships come and go. Each relationship is to teach you about you. I heard somebody say before, I know it's a cliche, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. But then they reversed that and said, when somebody shows you who you are, believe them. What are your triggers? What about the opposite sex triggers you in a specific type of way? Because a lot of that will stem from the type of relationship you've had with your father. Like the point said, when it comes to self-awareness, self-realization, self-esteem, a father teaches a daughter, babe, you're pretty, you're this, you're that, you can do it. You can be whatever you want. A father teaches his daughter how to be interdependent in her relationship. Because there is a such thing as too dependent. Because you can be so dependent that you don't know how to flow in a relationship. As a woman, if you say that the man takes the lead, then allow him to lead. If you don't agree with the way he's lead, express that, but allow him to lead. As a man, if your woman is good or great in a particular area, allow her to be great in that area. See, but without seeing mom and dad coexist and be interdependent with one another, men and women don't know how. Men and women don't know how. And if you know that there's an area that you need work on, then God damn it, go get some help. Read. And I always encourage people that when you seek help, stop seeking help for somebody who is going to agree with you 90% of the time. Because if you in a bad way, because any relationship, fail or succeed, you are the common denominator. If you want different, then you have to be different. It's a key word, be. You can't say that you want unconditional love, but yet your love comes with conditions to protect your ego, fears, or insecurities. I always say a relationship should set healthy boundaries, but that's a conversation that y'all have. So fathers are important. We don't give men enough credit. And that is prevalent when Father's Day come around. Father's Day come around, fathers are not celebrated. Fathers are unappreciated. Because I've always said it. It's unfair being a man. Because fail or succeed, we're always the brunt of the blame. We're always made to be accountable, fail or succeed. And I mean, it is what it is. We're built for it. Biologically, physically, we're built for it. For those who have their fathers in their life, for no apparent reason, just go and just wrap your arms around his neck. Because like I said, fathers are not celebrated enough for the sacrifices that they make, the work that they do, the time, the effort that they put in. It's not easy. And for the men and women out there who have daddy issues, work on it. Work on it. Because your relationships won't be healthy until you get it right with your father. And this is for men as well as women. type of relationship that you have with your father will be the type of relationship that you have with men. So if you're a man and you have no respect for other men, if you're a woman who is combative and aggressive, if you have the opportunity before he leaves this earth, make it right with your pops. But that is my time. That is my time. I didn't do any promos at the beginning of the show. But for all the promotions, come over to Facebook on Tuesday evenings. I go live there as well. That's when I do all the promotional aspects. But to those who have tuned in, to those who will tune in at a later time, thank you, love you, appreciate you. Hit the share, like button. Even if you dislike it, hit it anyway. I'm cool with that. But, until next Friday, deuces.